All right, hello everyone. So today is Tuesday and I thought I'd get started on sewing my kind of White Tree of Gondor inspired dress, medieval dress. So I have the pieces cut out. My husband put on, I think it was Encanto this weekend, and so while he put that on, I have a hard time just like sitting down and watching something. I have to do something with my hands. So while we watch / listen to it, I cut out the pattern pieces for the dress. But basically this is like my concept idea of it. I don't know if I want to embroider the tree. And by the way, the color is like switched. Like the dress is a charcoal gray and then the embroidery would be in white. But I don't know if I want to put the White Tree of Gondor down here inside of a Gore, or put it up here on the chest area, which is like where the White Tree of Gondor is located on Aragorn's like costume. So I am still debating on if I should put it here or maybe put it here inside a Gore. And then all along the neckline, along the wrists, and then along the bottom of the skirt, I want to embroider a decorative like border. And for that, I'm either thinking it would be like sort of like a vine looking plant thing, or I could try to embroider things in Elvish around the bottom. I did save some Elvish writing and certain phrases in my Pinterest board, which I know that would be like probably a lot. So I'm still debating between doing Elvish or just doing like a vine or something. So this is kind of like my idea. I already made a hood actually. We were playing Clank with my husband's brother and his girlfriend. And so I brought the hood pieces. I cut it in 2 pieces. So this is the hood. And like the edges are all finished. So I sewed everything by hand while we played a game with them of Clank. So the edges are all turned inward and the hood I think looks really good. So it looks like this. And then like it would be sewn to the neckline of the dress and it can be hooded, and I think it would look epic with a hood. So I cut one out. I really think it looks cool. I don't know if I'll embroider like around the opening of the hood or not yet. That I still have to think about. But I think I should start getting started on the dress, the sewing. Then I can figure out the embroidery, maybe think about it more as I sew and figure out what I want to do. Alright, so at this part is when I started cutting out the pattern pieces while we were watching Encanto. So I am just cutting the fabric out, and then as you can see, sometimes my foster kittens would hop in and attempt to help. And I've run out of my pattern making paper that I would use. I basically use Christmas wrapping paper that has a grid on the wrong side, but I was out of that, so I had to tape 4 pieces of like printer paper together, and then I roughly traced the shape of a hoodie hood down on the paper, and then that's what I used as my hood pattern. So here is fruitcake, and here is my kind of idea for drawing. I have the 2 sleeve pieces here, and then the front and the back of the dress are here. These were both cut on the center fold, so there's no like opening or lacing in the front or the back. The dress is just sewn together at the sides. And then I might add a Gore in the front and the back. I might not do the front because it makes it more like flat. I could just add a Gore in the back maybe. So I'm still thinking about that. But I think this would be like a cool looking design to have a Gore in the front if I did do the tree in the front. But if I do end up doing the tree up here, I don't know that I would do a Gore. So I'm figuring that out. At this point, I pinned the front and the back of the dress together along the sides and up at the shoulders. So that's pinned together, and then I sew that together. After the main part of the dress was sewn together, I moved on to the sleeves. I folded them over and then I sewed that seam closed so that I would have 2 sleeves ready to sew onto the dress. And at this point I did try on the dress just to see how it fit, and I ended up having to take in the sides a bit because it was pretty loose. I didn't really show that part, but I did take it in a bit, and then I went ahead and sewed the sleeves on to the dress, as you can see right here. So yesterday, I basically put this whole dress together. I sewed the 2 main bodies of the dress together, just front and back, and then I attached the sleeves. And right now, I am pinning the seams. I'm filling them, so I trimmed down one side of the seam allowance, and then I'm folding the longer side in. This is called felling, so the full seam is like encased in itself. Hello, baby. So it'll have a nice finish. So I'm working on pinning the seams down, and then I'll probably do the neckline. And then I will figure out if I want to do like maybe a front and back Gore. I don't know, we'll see. So after I finished all of the seams and turning in the edge of the neckline, I moved on to the hood. So I used a pin to mark the center of the back of the dress, and I used that as a guide to match up the back, center back of the hood, just to kind of line it up, and then I just fit the hood in to the neckline of the dress and sewed it in. Okay, this is going to be such an epic looking dress. I love the hood. So last night we played Magic the Gathering with my husband's brother and girlfriend, and during that I sewed the hood on. So whenever it wasn't our turn to go, we played Two-Headed Giant of Magic the Gathering, me and my husband against them, and yeah. So I sewed the hood on then, so I didn't film it. But it's like almost ready. I was only really able to get 1 Gore out of the rest of my fabric. I think that's because I made a hood. If I didn't do the hood, I might have been able to finagle out some more Gores, but I sewed this Gore together. I had to cut it in 2 pieces and then sew it down the middle to form a whole Gore. And this one I will set in the back because I just think it looks nicer when you add more fullness to the back rather than the front. And since we only have 1 Gore, you know, it would have to either be in the front or the back to look balanced. So this is what we've got so far. I need to insert this Gore and then hem the bottom of the dress here, and then we can start on some embroidery. Yesterday I had turned in the edges of the wrist and sewn them down, and I filled all of the seams in the dress, like here, except for at the sides because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make side Gores yet. So these aren't filled yet, they're still raw. But I will get to those. I filled them up until like the waist point where it starts flaring out for the hips. So I did fill the seams up to like this point in the dress. So it's like mostly finished. And yeah, I think it's time to insert a gore. Actually, I have not tried this on since I put the hood on, so I should actually try it on just to make sure everything is good. And then we'll move forward with the gore. In order to insert the gore, I found the center point of the back of the dress, and I kind of used pins to mark where the center was and then down where I would want the top of the gore to start, where that point is. So I just kind of figured out where it would be, and then I cut from the bottom of the hem straight up to that point, and that is where I will insert the gore. And starting from the bottom of the hem, I started pinning the gore in, and I just kind of ease it in at the very top until it's kind of smooth, and I pinned it in place so that I could then sew it. And then for the actual sewing part, I like to start at the very top corner tip of the triangle shape, and just kind of reinforce it at the point, because there is a cut there where I cut up, so it makes kind of a weak point. So I like to start right at the very top of the gore and do a little bit of hand stitching right there to just reinforce it and keep it in place. Okay, so the gore is now sewn in place. Now when I do the gores, I actually reinforce the top corner before I start sewing the sides, because cutting up the fabric makes a weak point, and then so at this point area there would be weakness if you didn't reinforce it. So I reinforced that, and then I sewed along the sides. I did that by hand. I didn't do my sewing machine, mainly because I was stuck here in bed. Because kittens want to cuddle, and we cannot deny the kittens. Can we? No, especially because you're going home today, Fruitcake. Fruitcake has been pre-adopted for a bit by one of the volunteers at the rescue, so today she finally gets to go home. And it's kind of sad though, because that means it's her last day with her siblings. This is the last day they're all going to be together. And excuse me, sir or ma'am, whichever one of you white ones you are, let's not lick your brother's butthole. So now I'm going to be cutting one side of the seams all around and then tucking those in. I'll probably have them tuck outward from it. So I'll probably trim this edge all around and then tuck this in, pin it, and then I'll start sewing that by hand. And then after I do that, I can hem the bottom, and then the dress will be done, but then we gotta get started on embroidery. Okay, so I was going to wait until I did the embroidery and just release the video after that was completely done, but I decided to go ahead and do it in two parts. So I'll do the embroidery in a part two. I will be embroidering the tree of Gondor and a trim along it, but I'm gonna end this video now and just show it as it is, and then we'll do embroidery later.